Let me tell you something that might completely change the way you think about success, money, and your life. Most people think success is about being smarter, having better opportunities, or knowing the right people. But that is not true. Success is mostly about how you behave when nobody is watching, how you think when nobody is clapping, and what you choose to do when you are completely on your own. Because at some point in your life, if you want something different, you will go through a phase where everything feels uncertain. No support, no applause, no guarantee that anything you are doing will actually work. This is the phase where most people quit. But the few who keep going, they experience something very different on the other side. Let me take you back to a story. There was a man working at a financial firm in New York City, surrounded by incredibly smart people. He had a great job, a stable career, and a boss he deeply respected. One day, he went to his boss and said something that sounded crazy at the time. He said, "I want to quit my job and start a company selling books on the internet." His boss took him on a long walk, listened carefully, and then said something interesting. "That sounds like a really good idea, but it would be an even better idea for someone who does not already have a good job." Think about that for a second. Most people stay where they are, not because they lack ideas, but because they are too comfortable to act on them. You can have a job, you can have a career, or you can have a career. And if you find a calling, you hit the jackpot. But chasing a calling almost always comes with risk, uncertainty, and a period where nothing makes sense. Years ago, someone was asked to invest in a small idea. A young man said, "I am going to start an online bookstore from my garage. One day, I will become the richest man in the world." At that time, that sounded ridiculous. There was no such thing as a company worth that kind of money. Countries were not even operating at that scale. But the difference was not intelligence. The difference was belief. One person was laughing, the other was already clapping for himself. That is the difference most people miss. Successful people do not wait for validation. They start by believing in themselves before anyone else does. And that brings us to something very important. There is a phase in life that almost nobody talks about. It is the moment when you start changing, but your environment has not caught up yet. Your friends do not understand you anymore. Your old habits feel wrong, but your new life has not arrived yet. You are stuck in between, too different for your old world, not established enough for your new one. This is the lonely chapter, and it is one of the hardest parts of building anything meaningful, because during this time, you start questioning everything. What if this does not work? What if I give up everything for nothing? What if I fail? And here is the truth, you might fail, because success is not just about effort. Luck plays a role, timing plays a role, risk plays a role. There was a janitor who lived a very simple life, drove an old car, wore simple clothes. Nobody paid attention to him. But over decades, he quietly invested his money. When he passed away, he had millions. At the same time, there were highly educated executives living in massive houses, driving expensive cars, making huge salaries. And when the market crashed, many of them lost everything. So what is the difference? It is not intelligence. It is behavior. It is patience. It is discipline. It is understanding that getting rich and staying rich are two completely different games. Getting rich often requires taking risks, trying new things, being bold, but staying rich requires something else: humility, consistency, and the ability to not lose everything, because one mistake can erase years of progress. That is why the real goal is not just to win. It is to stay in the game, and staying in the game is harder than it sounds. Because during the middle, nobody is cheering for you. People cheer at the beginning. People cheer at the end. But in the middle, it is quiet. You wake up early and nobody cares. You work late and nobody notices. You struggle and nobody understands. That is where most people give up. But that is also where everything is built. If you can survive the middle, you separate yourself from almost everyone else. And while you are in that phase, something else becomes very important: how you define wealth. Most people think wealth is what you can see: the car, the house, the lifestyle. But that is not wealth, that is spending. Real wealth is invisible. It is the money you did not spend. It is the freedom you created. It is the options you have. The ability to walk away from something that does not feel right. The ability to take time off without fear. The ability to choose how you spend your life. That is real wealth. And most people never reach it because they fall into a very dangerous trap. The trap of never enough. No matter how much they earn, it is never enough. The goalpost keeps moving. They compare themselves to others. They chase status. They chase validation. And in the process, they lose everything that actually matters. Because there is no reason to risk what you have and what you need for something you do not have and do not need. At some point, you have to define what enough means to you, not to society, not to social media, to you. Because if you do not define it, you will chase forever, and you will never feel satisfied. Now here is something that might completely change your perspective. In a few generations, almost everyone alive today will be forgotten. The people who doubt you, the people who criticize you, the people whose opinions hold you back, they will all be gone. So why let their opinions control your life right now? Do it for yourself, not for approval, not for validation, for you. And along the way, you will realize something else. Many of the things that once felt like disadvantages were actually shaping your strengths. The loneliness, the rejection, the struggles, they build resilience. They build focus. They build independence. Pain often becomes skill. Discomfort often becomes strength. And the people who succeed are not the ones who avoid difficulty. They are the ones who can continue working without seeing results. They show up every day. They stay consistent. They keep going even when nothing seems to be working. Because they understand something most people do not. Big results take time, sometimes years. And during that time, you have to rely on yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to keep moving forward without guarantees. Think about your life as a story. One day, you will look back at this chapter, and the harder it is, the more meaningful the story becomes. The bigger the challenge, the stronger the person you become. So, when things feel difficult, do not assume you are on the wrong path. Sometimes difficulty is the path. You can choose comfort, or you can choose growth, you can choose safety, or you can choose possibility. You can choose to follow what everyone else is doing. Or you can choose to build something that is truly yours. At the end of your life, you will not be thinking about how safe you played it. You will be thinking about the choices you made, the risks you took, the things you tried, because you cannot be proud of your gifts. You did not choose them, but you can be proud of your choices. You can choose to work hard. You can choose to take risks. You can choose to keep going when it is difficult. And those choices define your life, not your talent, not your background, not your circumstances. Your choices. And if you stay consistent long enough, something incredible happens. The same people you once wanted to prove wrong no longer matter. You stop thinking about them. You stop needing their approval. You move on. And that is when you realize something powerful. Success was never about them. It was always about you. Best case scenario, you build a life that gives you freedom. Freedom to choose how you spend your time. Freedom to do what matters to you. Freedom to live on your own terms. Worst case scenario, one day none of it will matter anyway, so you might as well try. Because in the end, you do not win by out-earning everyone else. You win by building a life that actually feels like yours. And that starts with one simple decision. Keep going.